Sitting west. Yeah, it's right there. Hi, this is Abhigyan. I'm going to show you 5 visible planets. Now that is February 2016 in the sky, and if you look on the eastern sky where you have most light coming, that means that's where we're gonna have a sunrise in probably 35 to 40 minutes. So as you can see, a little bit sunlight is coming from this eastern sky, and rest of the zenith is a little dark. So that's how you identify the eastern sky. And right on eastern sky, the only visible and very brightest star is Venus. That's the Venus. And you see little left and below, that's Mercury. That's Mercury, and that's Venus. And if you see little right, you can spot 2 stars together. There will be 2 stars together. You cannot miss it. 2 stars together. So one on the top is Saturn, and one below, that's Antares. And sometimes they call Jyeshtha Nakshatra in Hindu calendar. And then you'll go a little right on it from here. Little right on little above, there's one very little orange star. That's Mars. It's gonna be little yellow and less shiny than Saturn. And then you go further right in about the same circle, you cannot miss, that's Jupiter. That's the Jupiter star. You cannot miss it. It's second most bright star in the sky after Venus. So here we have 5 planets. That's about 6:30 a.m. on February 8th today in Jacksonville, Florida. So this is one, which is Jupiter. And here, that's Mars. Then we have 2 here. And then this is our Venus. Thanks for watching.
If you're willing to get up early between January 20th and February 20th, you do get up early all the time, Joe, for work. But for those of us who don't, you're in for a special treat if you do. It's called a planetary spectacle of all 5 of the so-called bright planets. They will be visible to the human eye. That includes Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. You'll also be able to see the stars Picurus and Antares.
So joining us now to talk about the Parade of Planets is Dr. Derek Pitts, Planetarium Director for the Franklin Institute of Technology. Thank you so much for joining us. So when is this happening? When will we be able to see all 5 of these planets simultaneously?
You'll be able to watch these 5 planets in the morning in the pre-dawn sky around 6:15 to about 6:40 or so. For the next month, you'll have this great opportunity in which you can go outside on a day when the sky is clear and catch view of these planets. No binoculars necessary. Look over to the eastern sky and around to the south, and through that sort of panoramic view, you'll be able to catch all 5 of these planets.
And so the question, I think, for a lot of people who don't know a whole lot about astronomy is that you go up to the roof of your house or your apartment here in New York City and you look up in the sky and you see tons of stars. What are the biggest? I mean, clearly the brightness will be some signifier, but I think a lot of people sometimes go up there and they look around and they go, I can't tell what's what.
Well, Vlad, I have a special trick for that. It's really, really simple. And it goes like this. Stars twinkle, but planets don't. So if you're looking toward that portion of the sky, eastern, southeastern, around to the south, you will be able to tell the difference between the stars and the planets because the planets don't twinkle. Also, the brightest objects you'll see in the morning sky will be the planets, especially Venus. Venus is the one that's really bright, clear white, down lower to the horizon, a little bit further over toward the east. And that one will stand out brilliantly. You can't miss it. So that'll be your first clue as to what the planets look like, bright but no twinkle.
So how often does something like this happen?
Well, it actually happens every decade or so. The last time this occurred was in 2005. There will be some continued planet gathering going forward over the next several years. So you'll be able to see something similar to this again next year, but the planets won't be up as high in the sky, so it'll be more difficult to see some of the other ones. This time around, we have Venus down low on the eastern side. A little bit higher, we have the planet Saturn. A little bit higher up in the sky around toward the south, we have the planet Mars. And then right up at the top in the south, we have the planet Jupiter. And all 4 of these are really easy to see. Now, Mercury is the 5th planet that's coming onto the scene later this month and early next month. And you know, you can add one other thing to this that will help make all the viewing spectacular. And that is right at the last week of this month, early next month, we'll have the last phases and a thin crescent moon sliding past each of the planets as the moon makes its way around to its beginning of its phasing again.
Derek, will we be able to see, if we're looking up at Saturn, will we be able to see the rings even faintly, or will that be just too much of a stretch?
Yeah, that's a great question, Vlad, because that's really the hallmark of that planet are the rings, and of course of Jupiter, its main bright moons are the hallmark for that planet. Now, these planets are all visible naked eye. You can see it without any problem at all. You don't need binoculars. But if you add binoculars, you'll be able to pick up the 4 large moons of Jupiter without any difficulty. They'll look like little tiny stars arranged in a line around the planet. But if you have a small telescope, and you remember that gift you got for the holiday season, Vlad? Somebody gave you a telescope and you haven't taken it out to use it yet? It's off in a closet someplace. Well,
you probably used it.
I probably, yeah.
You're going to get that out, and you're going to use that to take a look at Saturn, because you will be able to see the rings of Saturn with very, very low power in any kind of telescope. It doesn't have to be a big telescope. A small telescope will work out just fine. And even if you have something like a bird spotting scope hanging around that you use for birding, that will work to show you the rings of Saturn as well.
But Dr. Pitts, you're saying for somebody like me, who tends to miss all this stuff and never knows what to look at.
Well, I always thought you had your head in the clouds, Jill.
It's quite true. So someone like me will be able to enjoy this as well.
Well, I'm going to make it even easier for you, Jill. Here's what we're going to do. Is if you start at 6:15, the sky is still dark enough that the planets are there among the stars. But as we get closer to sunrise, say around 6:30 or 6:40 in the morning, what's happening is that the stars have now all faded away because the skies become too bright. But the planets will still be there. So if you wait just a little bit later, between 6:30 and 6:45, what will happen is the stars will fade and the planets will stand out on their own. And then that way, just for you, Jill, you'll be able to identify them in that line from Venus all the way up to Jupiter.
All right, well, I'll be watching.
Yeah,
Great.
It's going to be cool. We're going to be up there, definitely.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much, Derek.
Sure.
As usual, we appreciate the discussion.
Thank you.
All right.